the ushers, the ministries of the church. If there's going to be, if they want a music, they should go to that person, the minister of music, in terms of that. And that's just my opinion. And
Okay.
often I will tell people that just because I give it my opinion does not necessarily mean that people have to agree with me. No. The musician is an accompanist. Now, if that musician, trumpet player, or whoever that you just got through mention would be educated on knowing what to do, taking on the position of the minister of music, that's no problem with me, as
Let me
far as
ask you a
that's
couple of
concerned.
questions.
So,
When you say educated, you
yes.
mean how do you mean educated? And I'm thinking you don't mean experience. You mean there's a better word than classically, but
Right.
instructed in a school type setting. Is that what you mean?
Not a
No. What do you
school.
mean?
In the church, if that person would be educated as far as now, I looked up the in the dictionary, or I have a dictionary in my computer, and it says that person uh, preferably needs to know theory when it comes to being educated
Yes.
in that area. Not everyone does that, but it would be helpful toward that minister of music. Okay, that organist or pianist is a musician to me. That is just an accompanist. Now, if that person would be educated in knowing what to do, then they can have that hat of being the minister of music,
Okay.
as far as that's concerned. And I have no problem with that because there are a lot of people, like you said, there are some people that would actually think that trumpet players, any instrument players, woodwinds, or brass, or drummer could have that education on knowing what to do. A musician could be a director, a minister of music of any kind, of being a director, because they have that skill to doing so. But that's just my
Okay. And that
opinion.
no, that's fair, and that's what we're trying to get at. One more question: in your thinking, who does the teaching? Who tells who teaches the parts to the choir and maybe to the other musicians? Is that
The director, yeah, the director and or the choir director. Now, if the trumpet player and all those instrumentalists would have the know-how to know how to teach, then I have no problem with that. You know,
yes?
but I would usually think that the minister of music and or the choir director would have that responsibility to me.
Okay, all right, cool. This was something I pulled off the internet from a person who thought this is what the basics of being a minister of music included. And this person wrote, in fact, he's one of our members. He wrote, choose the songs, teach the songs, arrange songs if necessary, staff consultant to the pastor, um, something about teaching choir decorum, worship, and writes music. That's pretty exhaustive. Would any of you add to that list or change that list at all?
That would be wonderful. If that person would be educated to do that, they would have the know-how to do that as far
Yes.
as that's concerned.
I did that as the music director in the
Yeah.
in the United Methodist Church. I probably created sheet music for 19 straight years. A whole book about this thick, full of music to every song for every voice.
Wow. I used to write
And
out
like,
charts too, but that was mainly for musicians. And even though for every song I taught, I gave the choir the words. Now, again, this is in my latter years, because I know there are folk who watch you say, well, in the beginning, you weren't doing that with us. We learned 3 new songs every week, and we had to memorize them, right? But towards the end, I guess that was because I was getting older. I gave them copies of the lyrics of every song, and for musicians, I also wrote out chord charts, right? So, to me, that was the position of the minister of music. I personally know of instrumentalists and I'm using that word to mean anybody other than the keyboardist in this conversation. I know of other instrumentalists who have perfect pitch. I don't have perfect pitch, so I have to plot out harmony. You know what I'm saying? Some people can listen to a person sing and just automatically come up with harmony. I can come up with rudimentary harmony, but when it comes to like intricate music, I don't have perfect pitch, but I know people who do, and who can tell you in a second, they were flat on that A. I can't do that. To me, that's not a necessary component of being a minister of music, but I think it's very helpful.
Right, it does. It does. It is helpful because a lot of people. I remember I got this cousin of mine that passed music theory in college. And I told him to sing an F sharp major scale, and he did it. And I told him, I said, you have perfect pitch, and he got scared. I said, no, don't be scared about it. Just use it as a tool to help you. That's the only thing I ever do as far as that's concerned. And just in case, for you all are listening out there in the public, I could teach a person to have perfect pitch.
Oh, really? Okay. I might have to take you up on that.
Oh, really? Now, you know, if I asked, I say, may I help you? And you said, no, that's okay. I said, but that's okay. It would help them. It would help that person. I discovered that when I was in high school, at the 10th or 11th grade, the bands always tuned to the B flat concert scale in whole notes. And I can just hear B flat just like that. And how I got used to all the 12 keys, C, C sharp, D, E flat, E, F, S sharp, G, A flat, A flat, B. I can relate them to songs, secular songs that would be in those original keys. That's what sharpened my perfect pitch as far as that's concerned. And going back to the director, for example, I want to say this. The reason why I would give that responsibility of the director teaching and what have you, a lot of directors want to teach 3-part harmony, which is fine. But see, there are directors that will go even more than that when it comes to teaching 3-part harmony. The reason why I'm saying this is because in college, I was trained as an adjudicator. An adjudicator listens for everything. Intonation, tone quality, balance, phrasings in between words, and so on and so forth, for making sure that the SAT, soprano, alto, and tenor, and bass would sound like one voice. I used to be at a district solo and ensemble, and they would give me a sheet, and you would put down pluses and minuses. Minuses as in, okay, that's been left out. Pluses as in that part was really good. And the more pluses you get, the more you will get a first division rating, if you ever heard of those particular terms. First, second, third division ratings and things like that. And so that's why not only just myself as a director teaching songs, but I want to make sure that the SATB, even the instruments would sound like one voice. That's why I feel, and just to back up what I'm saying as to why the director has that sole responsibility of teaching the songs from A to Z. Okay, a lot of people that are directors want to do that. Sure enough. Okay, but I'm just backing myself up as to what the responsibility of the directors, or if anyone that's going to teach that song, minister of music, would have that reason as to why if that person is up in front of the choir teaching, because I used to be sitting in on the piano, on the piano and on the organ, and there would be some so-called directors that would teach us. They would say, "All right, repeat after me these words," and they would look at me and say, "Oh, David, give out the parts." No, especially if I learned how to just play the song. And that's all what I was supposed to do. But as far as the parts are concerned, you never told me, David, when you listen to this song, point out the parts. No. So that's just my take.
Okay, all right. And I get you that, Virgil. I hope we're not edging you out of the conversation.
Oh, not at all. I'm enjoying the information.
Okay. And again, David, I know you are speaking out of your experience. In my experience, most of the choir directors were not classically trained. I don't like that word classically, but they were not.
I don't think that's the right gospel music or any other type of genre concept or stuff. Yeah, when you think of classical, you think about classical. Okay, fine, but I just don't think about that style. It could be.
I'm not talking about style. I'm talking. There's a better word for what I'm saying, which means you are trained in an institution, not as to the type of music, that you have actually had some higher level education, and that's what I'm saying. That most of the choir directors that I know of, and I don't can say that I know 100%, but most of them I did not feel could go to a piano and point out a C and make it as opposed to a F or a B flat, right? And I'm not saying they could or couldn't, but I'm just saying most of them did not have that benefit of a higher education, but they produced some wonderful choirs with strong harmony, and they paid attention to the diction and the tessitura and all of that stuff, right? But they weren't trained in the classroom. And that's why, in my mind, whenever I hear you say educated, that's where my mind automatically goes, that you went to university somewhere, right? And I could be wrong. And I just need to clear that up for my own edification, that when you say educated, you don't mean you went somewhere and paid money for somebody to teach you, right?
Exactly. Okay, I mean, when it comes to, okay, let's just say music theory. Yes, I went to college for music theory. All right. And it helped me even the more to a point that I know if anyone that's listening out there that wants to be a choir director, I could train. I do believe that God has trained me to show that person what they need to know when it comes to teaching a song in the church according to theory. I just believe that God has given me to do that as to what they need. Okay, as to what they actually need. Yes, there are some people that have a good sense of harmony to a point that they don't need a theory. I'm talking about those people, and they're suffice in what they're doing. So, but I'm just talking about the people that need it. That
right, but David, I'm not talking about you specifically. I'm talking about the average person that might be listening. Do you believe? And I don't know. I'm not saying yay or nay, up or down. I'm saying, but do you believe that the average black choir director or choir director of a average black church has had theory training?
Not really.
I would say during the, again, and I'm talking about the late 60s, 70s, 80s, a lot of us, rather I should say, because I was part of that group too, we sat under people who had been school trained in music.
Right.
And we
That's what I'm saying.
And we learned under them how to what the sopranos should sound like, the altos, the tenors. They had a methodology when it came to teaching vocals.
Right.
The diction, the pronunciation, the breathing. I sat in rehearsals where they had as many as 200 altos, maybe another 200 or more sopranos, another 75 or 100 tenors. This was a huge. This was the on a state level choir. They didn't call them mass choirs back then. It was part of the state choir, and they because when the choir marched in on an official night, it was 600 strong. And they were holding, and they had to have individual rehearsals because the church could not hold all of them. So they had people but they had the church have enough. But when the church was full, it was full of choir people that sang, and they were able to teach anthems because during that time, anthems was the thing that they wanted to hear.
What's the thing? Yeah.
Anthem hymns. Some gospel, and at that time, it was the gospel of that time. I won't call no names, but but those were the guys those were they didn't even go into the gospel. They had people designated who handled the gospel part, while those who were handling the anthems took care of teaching the anthems and the hymns, because because one person can't do it all. But the musical director or the conductor designated those that were qualified to teach.
Burgess, hold your point for 1 minute. I want you to come back. Your mic was so low, I had to boost up the volume, but I can't separate us. So the rest of us, turn down your mic a little bit, because I got you, Burgess, but everybody else, when they come in, it comes in like, wow, wow, wow.
Oh, how about now? Am I still too loud or too low?
Now? You know what? Hold on. I would have to check. Did you just make a change of some kind?
I just turned myself up.
Oh, okay. Let me double check. Let me see. I'm gonna turn everybody down. All right, now you talk.
Hello.
Yeah, you're down. I have to turn you up.
How about now? Am I still down?
A little bit. Can you go higher without screeching? Hey, Sam Perryman.
Hello. Testing 1, 2. You know what? For some reason or other, let me see. Hold on a second there. Well, how about now?
It sounds the same to me. But I'm going to turn everybody up, and everybody but Burgess, turn your mic down a little bit, please.
1, 2, 1, 2. You know what? For some reason, my M audio is not working. Okay, because that's what I'm feeding through. My M audio, I got myself.
But you're fine now. You're fine now. We will make the adjustments.
Okay, you hear me now? How about now?
I hear you now.
Yeah, because my M audio is not. My lights usually would be flashing.
Yeah, that could be it. Those electrical imps like to try to mess us up every week.
Yeah, usually flashes while I'm talking, and it's not doing it at all. Although on my computer it says I'm being fed, but if I don't know, let me have some issue with this. So
yeah, well we'll work on it. We'll work on it. Go back to your point now, if you don't mind.
You still hear me?
Yes, very well.
Well, okay, yeah, something is different, but. Again, I sat under people who had been school trained. So while they were teaching a part, I was being schooled on the excellence of music, so that I didn't have to necessarily go to school, because I was being schooled by those that went to school.
Mm-hmm.
You see what I'm saying? So otherwise, even when it came to playing the anthems or the hymns on a local church, I was schooled by people who already had schooling, and they were properly trained, and it helped me develop properly how to play chord changes, melody lines, introductions, bridges to songs in the hymn era. And again, because otherwise I'd have been very, and they were very, again, efficient, and they were very on point. There was no sloppiness, there were no, and they were very concerned about the music accompanying the choir and not challenging the choir.
Yes. Let me catch Sam Perryman up. We started off talking about the duties, and is there a difference between a minister of music as a title and a regular musician as a title? We've kind of evolved into, it turned into directors, which is cool because, here we just go with the flow, right? And just as long as we respect each other. So, Burgess, based on what you were saying, you were saying that you were trained by trained people. But that wasn't really my premise. My premise was, does the average director in a average black church, are they trained? Are they, Sam Perryman, you're good at words. I keep saying classically trained, but I don't mean classically in terms of genre. I mean a formalized education system, like you went to a college or you paid somebody to teach you something. Now, there's got to be a better word than what I mean.
Are they credentialed?
That wasn't so much what I was speaking about. My concern is some of us here think that you need to be educated, right? And I was just trying to point out, when I hear the word educated, I think of a traditional education system where you've been to music school or university and somebody taught you theory, right? And my point is that I know lots of choir directors who didn't take theory but produce and lead wonderful choirs, right?
Yeah. If I understand you, and I'm always saying, and right now, by the way, I plug for our church, we need a musician, and we have been trying to recruit and hire a musician for the end of the month for a while, and that ain't going good.
Name the church.
Can't tell you.
Oh, you can, okay. Oh,
yeah.
And you told us not to.
Matter of fact, we had three candidates before. I'm down in Alabama now. We had three candidates before I left, and one of the things that's good about it is that even when they came in, I was a part of the panel, and I can see, even if they don't come as to get hired, I can see some place for them and supporting our ministry, and one of them wanted to come back because they kind of want to work with me, and I thank God for that. And that's partly because of the fact that when I think of myself, and I am kind of billed as I call myself the minister of music and worship, and I think worship is as important as minister of music to me, in how I identify. But I do think, to your point about what the difference is, if that was one of the questions, the difference between a minister of music and a musician. I think there is a difference, and I don't think it's just in terms of what the role is. That what's the difference between a pastor and an associate minister? I think that one has sort of a larger territory. Yeah, the administration is important, but I think that there is much more that goes into being a minister of music than just being able to run a music department and say I'm the head. But that, for another time, we are looking for someone to help us to get started. A couple of ministries, a youth ministry and a male chorus. And when the Lord sends us somebody who fits for us, we'll know it, and we're just going to keep on going until that time comes. But that is a plug that I wanted to put in, that we are continuously accepting. And if anyone is interested, they can go through you to get to me, or I have a presence on Facebook. We'll figure out how to do it. Right now, we are kind of going back to who do you know, Sam? Can you bring somebody? Or, we've tried the Indeed, putting out an application, having people apply. We've got a few people. I think that, I don't know where our solution is, but it just hasn't worked quite like we wanted at this point. But I just trust that in God's own timing. And in the meantime, I'm going to be there. The church ain't going to go without just because we don't have. So I'll just leave it there.
Okay, cool.
Just to throw this in, I have been an advocate since 1992 for churches to grow musicians within their own ministry, and I've not gotten any support from churches since 1992. Although I'm all over the internet That's why I'm all over the internet, because no physical church, at least in the New York City area, would support me in that effort. They didn't think they had the need.
I totally agree with you, and I've been saying, and I think even Pastor Clarence knows that I believe you can't consume anything that you don't plant. And so I totally agree with you. And I was saying earlier that there is an experiment that I want to invite you to, because I really appreciate your energy as well as the energy of this body of literally putting tools in every church's hand that is interested. There are things that they can do. For example, we can take a keyboard and put it in front of a monitor and put a person there and let that be the first line of teaching, whether they go to a site that you are learning, that's learning from you or not. And then I become sort of a supervisor, and we create recitals for public to see that this can work. I think it's that kind of grassroots work that we have to do, consistent with what Sam is talking about. And I think we're going to get there. The church is kind of beginning to listen because of what we're doing. And sometimes because our need is so immediate, we need somebody now. We ain't got time to think about it's driven by a lot of things, but I hope that we'll invest as much time into what Sam is talking about as what I'm talking about, because I think that maybe that might very well be the carrot that you need in order to grow this fellowship. That's one of the things that anybody can take away from them. Yes, this is a place to get some good ideas and to contribute some.
Now, Sam, I had this question. You said your church is looking for a musician, right? Okay. I don't know if I could this go actually working out, and I've been down in prayer and doing this. And I have done what you all know. The Lord has blessed me to give musician clinics. Okay, anyone that wants to learn how to play for a church, I just believe ever since. Let me tell you something. Ever since I took theory, ever since took theory, and the Lord blessed me to a point that I've taken private piano lessons when I went to college for the first time. And I just thank God that He's brought me to that place. I just believe that God has given me to train a music. I got 2, 3, or 4 people that I want to be students that they want to start from scratch on learning how to play for a church. Okay, and what they need to know. As far as, I mean it from scratch. I taught this one young lady in this city, for example. God, I thank you. I taught her some keyboard theory. I taught her some keyboard theory to a point that she had aspirations to go into a junior college and got an associate's degree in music. Okay, and so. Just to let you all know that, as far as that's concerned, and I would be praying for you, Sam, that you all will get that musician as far as that's concerned, because they are in need. But then again, I know that there are a lot of churches that solely like to depend upon musicians. But I teach workshops to a point that to say that a good church congregation or a good choir, for example, a good congregation of the church or a good choir should learn how to sing with musical accompaniment or without musical accompaniment, as far as that's concerned, if they want to get to that place. And that there have been some churches that would say, we can't sing without an organist, we can't sing without a pianist. True, and I can understand that, but see, we need to come off of that. Okay, for one thing, I used to be Church of Christ before I was Baptist. And for some churches of Christ, a lot of churches of Christ, they never did believe in instruments. And so when I started learning, my father asked my father, she said, well, could we put David's organ in the Church of Christ? Daddy said no, so we left. And And we went to a Baptist church that had an organ. The reason why is because my mother wanted the gift that God has given to me to be stirred up, you know. And so I just thank God that I'm at that place. But just to let you know, I will be praying for you, Sam.
So is Reverend Blair, I don't know whether you've thought about this or whether we've talked about it or that it's coming up, but I'm wondering, I know what Sam is doing and I see Burgess, he is incredible. I just did not know it and I just congratulate you. They're both very talented. And I happened to run up on his site and I asked him, who hands them in? Oh, that was really some good stuff, and I can learn a lot from it. And of course, I have seen I brought up Brock as well. So I just thank God for you. I just wonder what the best practices are and whether we can have a conversation around that. Very methodical. What do you do first in your environment? And if you're doing something currently, I have some ideas of things that I want to lay out, but I really kind of need to talk about them. And maybe this would be a forum to kind of talk about them stepwise as to how I can set this up and what you think about this and what's missing or what needs to happen. That kind of planning would be a good topic series for the future.
Are you speaking about a system of education?
Well, I'm saying sort of a flow. Yeah, in some ways systematic in the sense that one thing builds on the other. Take for example our church. I have, and I think I don't know whether I've shown you. I'll send you sort of a video of some things I laid out. I have a little television monitor sitting on the table and a keyboard, and I'm suggesting that even if we created little DVDs, and this partly was related to doing something in Africa where there isn't internet access, but one of the things that we could do, a person could do, is go online and find how to play the piano DVDs and play it in a DVD player that projects from a TV. Another is to use a HDMI cable and go online and learn things. But the bottom line is that there's a keyboard in front of an individual, almost creating a self-guided learning station as the first level of teaching. Because, even in church, people think that, yeah, Sam wants to teach all these students. No, I don't. I got enough to do, but we can't create a space, for them to learn so that on Saturdays when the children's choir rehearsal, there could be an opportunity for people to come and to work on, work weekly on music learning or piano learning. And we sort of build slowly as I see Sam pulling out, that becomes sort of one of the places to use his material. And not only that, but I also was thinking in terms of, one of the youth activities could be, especially for those who are interested, we could go to libraries and check out materials that they have. And some of it is duplicatable. I don't want to sound like I'm talking about avoiding copyright, but if I go to a library, and I do this myself, and I go into their DVD collection and I see how to play the piano or singing vocal basics, I might take that home and try it out or add that to my library. And that becomes sort of, we build a library as well. And it just sort of, one thing builds on the next, and that also has tremendous outreach value, right? Because when people see that we have something to offer besides just choir and usher board, then that might appeal to some people. So to have a conversation around that and allow people to freely speak about, especially things that they're doing, and not just talking theoretically, but what are you doing, Sam? How can that help me? Because there are a lot of things I see here that could very well help me in what I'm doing. And so to have a conversation around that is all I'm advocating.
Yeah, man, I do not see a problem with that. I would just want us to make sure that what we present does not sound haphazard, right? So if that's a topic we decide to do, then, one of you or me could make a presentation and say, this is it, step one, and then this is what I would do after that, right? As opposed to everybody just kind of chiming in and, well, I don't know if that'll work, but right? A solid, forward-thinking
Even if
presentation.
we, yeah, and I'm gonna get off it after that. Even if there are like 5 steps, we could talk about step one week, setting up, and everybody might have different ideas of setting up, which then allows us creativity with just that step. But I'm happy to kind of help figure out how to do that in a way that doesn't kind of cause us to be all over each other.
Yeah, duly noted. Thank you. Burgess, you back with us? You get your mic fixed? No, I don't hear you at all now.
I don't either.
It's okay. You're trying, and that's what counts, brother. You get an A for effort. Can you hear me?
I've often wondered as I traverse through the time or the decades as being a church musician, and I would go to workshops where they would bring in musicians and supposedly to give them instruction. I would always have the concern that there was never anything written down on paper. There was never anything that said, here's step 1, step 2, step 3. It was only, here are some chords that I play to a song. And I was always, well, I can't see the piano if all the musicians are crowding around it. How about writing out something that details the name of the chord, the key you're in, the actual theory that can build a musician, not just impress them?
Yeah, that's a difference.
So,
Yeah.
in answer to your request, Sam, I can't reinvent a wheel that I've had in place since 1992. Everything that I have done, I just showed you 34 DVDs of specific church songs, breaking it down for the absolute beginner that are not viable today because musicians don't want to learn that. They want to learn the latest chords that they hear other musicians playing. The animal, that's why I said when you start at home, in your home church, you're going to take the 8-year-old and you're going to train at least 3 at a time because as they progress in life, one goes to college, one goes to work, one gets married. But because you've taught them at the same time, that same materials you use goes to the next 3 behind them. And you just keep a train of training musicians in your local church.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, as I go, again, I'm speaking from my experience, but in the local churches, they didn't really have a program where the church mentored future musicians, but there was always 3 or 4 kids interested in the piano, right? And it was just a matter of getting them channeled in, and the older folks not shooing them away. Get away from that piano, that kind of stuff. So, and thank God for technology because, and Sam Tolbert, I've seen you use this a number of times, where you can split your screen and you can actually show what you're doing with your fingers, but then there's a keyboard with the I'm sorry, what was that?
I was just saying that's wonderful. I've observed what Sam Tolbert has done. It's wonderful as to how you play a certain song, and I can see the reason why you would be on my show and see what I do. I hats off to you, Sam, as for what you've done.
Amen. Yeah, he does wonderful. So I was saying technology solved that because even with that kind of dated notion of shedding now, you're quite right. It only advantages you depending on where you're standing, if you can see what the keyboard is doing, right? But a lot of times, that's exactly what I'm talking about. But a lot of times, if they're playing an intricate passage, and it's very difficult for you to keep up what those hands are doing, because especially if it's an organ, you got to incorporate or take in the fact that the foot is moving and doing something. The left hand is doing something, the right hand is doing something. But what Sam is showing us now is an excellent avenue, especially, Sam, for what you are envisioning about how to teach young people at a monastery, right? They can actually see the notes that are being played, and they can also see the fingering, because fingering is just as important as the chord itself.
Well, you can say that when it comes to chords, When you're talking about fingerings, that would be relating to classical music. Okay,
I don't
as
think
when
I
it
don't think
comes.
it matters. You know, if you're playing a C chord, you're probably going to hit your C with your thumb, right? I mean, if you're in the key of
Yeah,
C, you're probably going to have your thumb on the C, right? And then
yeah,
there is fingering for each of
uh,
those notes. And I understand what you're saying. So I wasn't
yeah.
talking. I'm not talking genre of music. I'm not talking
Okay.
hip hop, jazz, or classical. I'm just
Yeah,
saying, you know, the
because
I
when it
guess
comes to that,
I guess
people
one
don't
I guess what I would
understand.
I guess what I would refer to it as functional piano.
yeah, right,
Yeah,
right,
functional.
exactly.
Anywhere where we will put our fingers at when it comes to jazz or blues or anything like that. We just put our fingers literally, just anywhere where it's comfortable, like a 1, 2, 5, and when it comes to the fingers, as far as that's concerned, we just put our fingers anywhere when it comes to gospel music.
Matter of fact,
Okay.
come to think of it, Reverend, it might be an idea to bill it as functional piano as opposed to gospel or popular or anything like that. Because as you know, there are people who actually go into elementary education with the idea of working with children, and you work with children around music. And if I'm in elementary education and I want to work with kids and teach them folk songs, I have to learn how to function at the piano in order to do that. And so that very well could be a springboard for something a bit more involved. And how do you teach them to function at the piano? And that could also have an appeal to adults as well, because chances are the adults might be the primary consumers of whatever it is that you're offering. Because I know that there's a shortage of help. And so one of the things that I'm trying to do is to train trainers, right? And so when some adults who are faithful in church sort of learn some of the things that I'm learning, even in this functional piano capacity, then they can help me to implement whatever it is that we're doing. And it's those kinds of strategies that we could just kind of talk around until we come up with the right situation, because people bring different learning levels and learning styles, and no one particular method is going to speak for everybody. And so there is plenty of room for variety in how we even get across whatever we want to teach.
Sam, when I took theory, they would have this book, and on one side of the page, they would have the questions in music theory, and they also give you the answer. For me, I'm so interested in teaching that musician how to play, and I would give them, the tools and what have you. I would give them the answer, and I would give them how to give the answer, how to get the answer. I am just that anxious on teaching them. Okay, not just for them to give them a music trivia question, and for them to figure it out for themselves. I like to say, okay, this is what it is, and I'm gonna show you how. Okay,
Yeah,
as
yeah.
far as that's concerned. But I tell my students, please, this is for you. I will tell them at least practice 20 minutes a day. Don't go overboard. If you want to go 30 minutes, then fine. A day. Okay. And then when you come back, because I can tell when my students have studied, and I can tell when they haven't.
Well, I mean, Rock, there are a lot of, that gets into, I don't want to, I'm gonna stop, Reverend. There are a lot of, there are a lot of things that go into the philosophy of teaching. What I want to do is help them to realize that they got something that they can build on, right?
Right.
And that's quite different than me standing in a place
So long as they learn.
so,
Yeah, so long as they
yeah, at
learn.
some point we'll talk about it. As a part of this conversation could be a discussion about the philosophy, because what's so important to me is to help people to realize that there's something in them that they already have. I think one time I heard Reverend Clarence saying, bringing out what's already in. Right, that's what
What's
as you
already inside
teaching
the
me
person. Yeah.
to reach inside and see that I do have some talent that I can build on. That'll encourage me much more than making me a slave to what someone feeds me.
Right.
Because I'm going to tell you, it's just something about music theory that scares some people that are learning. It scares them, you know.
I think it's the teacher.
Yeah, yeah, as far as that's concerned. And I'm not in that place whereby, I mean, I had a couple of them. I had a young person, and he wanted to learn. He learned the scales. He learned all what I taught him, and all of a sudden he just wanted to leave because he said it's hard to read music. I said, of course it is, unless you practice. And see, what really bothers me is when the students come and they do their homework and they come back and they struggle and they don't ask me any questions. You've got to ask questions in order to find out where you're going. Okay? Otherwise, you won't know. Unless, one time I was dealing with this one student and I was teaching them the Yes Lord of the Church of God in Christ. I wrote it out. Okay? And he kept making a mistake on the second, like, down, 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 down. Then when he got to the third measure, I wrote it out for him, but he kept missing the notes. I said, that's what you need to be asking me about. If you don't know, I would break it down. Okay, break it down for them as far as that's concerned. So that's what really bothers me is when they don't ask questions. You got to ask in order so that you can get an understanding, like the word says, and all that get what? An understanding.
Amen.
All right, well, thank you for that. Let's bring this round in our final 5 or 6 minutes. We started out talking about yeah, time flies when you're having fun. We started off talking about the difference between minister of music and musician, right? Let me ask you, in your personal experience, have you ever been paid, treated as a musician, but you still had all of the responsibilities of a minister of music?
We weren't paid right. No. We weren't paid, but we weren't paid right.
Thank you. So me and broccoli, huh?
I thought the last time we talked about this, Burgess had something to say about that. Being paid very little, but you had your responsibility.
Well, I'll just say this: the churches love to put collars, which I call titles, on people. They'll make you an assistant to the minister of music without the pay. But when that person, the minister of music, doesn't show up, you have all the responsibility.
Yeah, that does happen.
I guess that begs the question. Definitions. How do we define? And I'm not saying that we don't know, but I would have to define what minister of music is. But to directly to the